Disclaimer. Any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. Welcome back to the podcast today. And today I welcome back Adam Smith to the show. And I'm excited to dive into all the things Adam's been doing with high performers and what he's doing with the world. So just a quick introduction to Adam. So founders hire Adam to transform their mindset, health, and performance so they can think clearly, lead with confidence, increase profit, and stay present at home while building a life of real freedom. Adam, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much, mate. It's good to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying before the show, loving seeing all the things you're up to on like LinkedIn. I know you're very active there, and you're already promoting some good messages there, and I really enjoy reading your posts. I'm excited.
Thanks, man.
So, Adam, I know you've got this. You're helping a lot of people. Basically, what I see as getting the best out of themselves. Quite a lot of high performers. Maybe it's athletes, maybe it's founders, or various other roles. What's your like drive about helping people get the best out of themselves in this high performance?
I think that it takes a special kind of character to reach a certain type of level, and you have to. I was going to say sacrifice it. I don't believe we sacrifice anything. I think all we have is time and choices. But people dedicate themselves and their entire lives and careers to being the best that they can be, reaching for new heights, trying to be groundbreaking in anything, any discipline that they're trying to break through in. And what I'm fascinated by is what makes them do it, number one, because it's usually not the thing that you think it is. People say, I want to provide for my family, I want to build a legacy, etc. I think I found that to be the case. It's just not true. It's usually deeply ingrained in them from a young age that they aren't good enough, that they don't deserve to be happy, that they are somewhat unfulfilled when they achieve the success as well, which is quite an interesting dichotomy, really. You know, people that we think once we get the house, once we get the car, once we get the white picket fence, that's going to be it. And I'm going to be really happy forever. And I've just not found that to be true. So I think that what actually happens is they push, and they go, is this it? I think that is really quite devastating, that you've given up so much of your life and dedicated so much time to perfecting your craft, when it'd be so easy just to be Joe Blogg's Employee 101. And there's nothing wrong with being Joe Blogg's Employee 101, by the way. I don't say that disrespectfully, but they've given so much of themselves to pursue excellence. They've arrived at that point and gone, what now? That fascinates me. So I'm so curious as to why people do that and how they've got to that stage and what was the driving factor to push them on. And it's usually something that stemmed from their childhood. Parents saying that they weren't good enough, teachers saying that they had potential but were never going to make it, bullies in the schoolyard ridiculing them. And they've turned that pain into success, which I admire, but then I also help them rectify the negative narratives that have been attached to them for so long, with the belief systems, with the labels they use to describe themselves. You know, it's just, yeah. I'm fascinated by human behavior and the human mind, though, but especially of those exceptional individuals that have really pushed themselves to that level.
It is fascinating. And I know sometimes it can be easy, I feel, to kind of see a high performer, whether it's like a CEO, a founder, and think, wow, they've got it all together. And, you know, like they don't have any challenges, and kind of that perception you could make. But yeah, what perhaps you've touched on a couple of them there, but if you were to say that if there's maybe a few things that you run into behind the mask, what kind of challenges are these for performers?
I think, you know, what's really interesting is the key is in the name performance. And you might say performance is sprinting, Usain Bolt, that's a level of performance. But you also might say actors. And you might say the West End is a performance, the jazz hands and the loud songs and the great routine. And I see a huge difference between high performance and high performance. And what I mean is high performance is someone that's got their shit together. They wake up at 6, they go to the gym. No one knows that they go to the gym because they don't need to talk about the fact they've been to the gym. They don't post it on Instagram. They have the meetings, they get the deals done. They've got the nice car still, but they're actually at home and they're fully present with the family because they know what they're doing it for. Then you've got the performance side, which is I'm going to record myself jumping into a bin full of ice and give myself hypothermia. I'm going to drink my kale smoothie even though I absolutely hate it. I'm going to profess to have everything perfectly lined up and nailed. So then I'll be enough. Then I'll be validated. So my therapist actually said to me about 6 weeks ago, because I was in maybe 4 or 5 years of coaching, and my last coach said to me, I think now you're ready for therapy, which I found really interesting. So I thought, I'll go for it. I'll see how I get on. And I started talking about my life and the challenges that I've had and what I do for a living. And he said to me, it sounds to me like a lot of your life has been a performance. And I've never felt so like seen in my whole life, because he was right. For most of my life, probably from the age of 5 or 6 that I can remember anyway, I'm 37 now. So for the best part of 30 plus years, I've been performing, trying to get people to like me, trying to be validated and accepted for who I, wanted to be, but didn't feel comfortable enough to be. So I had to create a character in the hope that people would like it. And then you have this dissonance because you say, am I the avatar that I've created, or am I the real Adam Smith? I don't know which one's which anymore. And I see a lot of men that deep down know who they are, but they don't feel confident enough or worthy enough of being that version because they're fearful of being judged, they're fearful of being ridiculed or ostracized from their peer group. So they'll go down to the Dog and Duck with Dave and Dan and talk about birds, pints and football, when in reality, they want to have a true conversation with a level of depth to it, talk about their insecurities, talk about their vulnerabilities, talk about becoming the best version of themselves, but they don't do it. So that, I honestly would say that's a huge element, mate, is wearing a mask and not feeling comfortable enough in your own skin. So therefore you create a character that you feel will get people to like you. That's the most destructive one, because then you're out of alignment. So you want to be Joe's six pack, but you keep going out every weekend and getting shit-faced with your friends. You want to be super present with your kids and your wife, but you keep checking emails because you keep chasing down more deals, thinking that's going to be the thing. Or when I talk about this on LinkedIn, then I'll get loads of likes, then I'll be enough. I want to leave a legacy. Why? Because then my family will, love me even more. Well, they'll love you more now if you're actually present, because when leaving a legacy, how will you know? You'll be dead. So why not focus on being present today? You say you do everything for your family, but you're working away 6 nights a week. So it's that, mate. It's that separation between what people actually want and who they actually are and what they're portraying and putting out to the world. That's the biggest difference that I see.
Yeah, some really great insights there. I love that. And I totally agree. So with the finding something meaningful genuinely to someone, that they're not just doing it to get Instagram likes or LinkedIn likes, or to look good in front of the women or guys or whatever. How does someone go about actually finding something meaningful for them?
I would say you need to elicit what your values are and not the junk values that you have been living by. So when the lights are off and the cameras stop rolling, who are you really? If you couldn't tell anyone about it, would you still do it? This looks like buying a homeless person a sandwich because you can see that they're hungry and they're cold is a really nice thing to do. Buying a homeless person a sandwich and taking a picture with them to post on social media is a disgusting thing to do because you've got a junk value. You've done the behavior in the hope that someone will say, well done. Whenever I give to charity, which I do frequently, ironically, I'm telling people about it now. I always do it anonymously when I do the thing because I'm like, well, I don't want people to know. I know I've just said it now, so people might be thinking you're full of shit. When I do buy a homeless, I'll never post about it. You don't have to do these huge groundbreaking gestures. It's letting people out of a junction, helping someone with their shopping. You don't have to pay for people's petrol and things like that you see online all the time. It just really extreme stuff. But, could you buy someone a coffee, pay a coffee forward, or buy a coffee and take it outside to someone in need? Things like that. But yeah, what do you stand for as a man or as a woman? What do you really believe in? Not politically or religiously necessarily, but what are your values? If someone talks to me like shit, how do I actually want to respond? Do I want to respond like an erratic child like I'm doing now? Do I want to be a vulnerable child and not say anything? Or do I want to be a rational adult and say, excuse me, I think what you just said there was really inconsiderate, or I found you to be very disrespectful in that moment? These are values that you live by. you can still be compassionate and empathetic, but also be strong and not be a pushover. So I think a lot of people deep down know exactly what they really think, but they've had it, not literally, but they've had it beaten out of them by society or by their friendship circle or by their partner or by their parents. And they fall into the should cycle, you know? You end up shoulding all over yourself of what you should be doing, and you end up miserable and say, why am I unfulfilled? Well, that's why, because you're not living true to what you actually think. So I would just take a pen to paper, get out of your head. What are some things that I value? Who do I want to be? What do I want to be known as? When people think of me, what do I want them to feel? How do I want to show up for my kids? How do I want to show up for my partner? What matters to me? Then you can start to act in alignment. But if you're out of alignment, you're going to be miserable and unfulfilled for the rest of your adult life, unfortunately. And I don't think we'll ever arrive at full alignment, but I think it's definitely something to pursue.
Starting with your values and what really matters to you. Really interesting. I had Dr. John DeMartini on, and he was talking about values being the foundation for everything. So that's really interesting. You touched on it as well.
Yeah. Without them, you don't know who you are, so you don't know what is right from wrong. You know, that's one of the bigger challenges that people have, because if you don't know what you stand for, then you're waking up every day like it's a bit of an accident. You know, I don't need to tell people, I don't mean to sound big-headed, I don't need to tell people I go to the gym. You can physically see I go to the gym. So I am in alignment with being a fit and healthy person. So if I miss a day at the gym, that's okay. But some people have to, air quote, go to the gym because it's not really in alignment. It's not part of their identity. So they will go exercise 4 or 5 times a week. I train 4 or 5 times a week, not because I'm an elite athlete, because it's part of my identity. But if Harry Kane doesn't kick a ball today, it doesn't mean he's not a footballer. So, you know, again, make sure that you're in alignment.
With your identity. I know you mentioned you've obviously been doing coaching and that, and you've been doing some therapy as well. Like what's the difference between them for you, and how have you found them both beneficial for you?
I think it's a good question that. I've had a few different coaches. I've had some that are quite directional, meaning CBT and NLP, where you have to focus on what they're saying and then you do the exercises around it. I've had some which have purely been around accountability. I give them a list of goals. They text me incessantly until they're done. I have some which are more down the therapy side, where you just share openly without any crystal clear direction of what you want to have achieved. You're just talking about how your day's been or what's impacted you recently, what's disturbed your inner peace, you know, what have you found challenging this week? Where do you feel like you thrived this week? Questions like that. I've had business coaching. I've spent multiple 6 figures on coaches in the last few years because I have to be at the top of my game to help other people. So it's an investment from the business consistently because I want to see different disciplines and I'm like I said earlier, mate, I'm so curious and I want to explore that curiosity of what else is out there. You know, I'm not huge into things like energy healing and stuff like that, but I gave Reiki a go, a session of it, and actually found it quite useful. I didn't go back, but I found that the hour I spent with them to be quite productive. But the therapy now is, so the first call, didn't really know what to expect. The first official call, I sat there and he said, "Hi, Adam." And I said, "Hi, Jim." We sat there for 30 plus seconds in silence, which doesn't sound like a very long time, but it's deafening. And I said, shall I go? He went, yeah. Whereas every other coach that I've worked with is, "Hey, Adam, how you doing, mate?" "Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, mate. How are you?" "Yeah, good. What would you like to focus on today?" Or "What would you like to get out of the session today?" Or "Let's review last week." This is just, "Hi, Adam." And you're like, because, and I found this to be true as well, mate. I have a somewhat therapeutic style to my coaching in that I'll ask questions, but then I'll just sit and shut up because I have to meet them where they're at that day. It's not my session. And a lot of coaches get this wrong. Right, today we're going to focus on, well, they might have had a massive argument with their partner last night. So I need to meet them where they're at. "Hey, mate, how are you getting on?" "I'm getting on good, thanks." "How did you feel after our last session?" "Yeah, I felt really good. You know, I achieved this, I did that. Fantastic. What would you like to focus on today and what would be most useful?" Sometimes they say, "I don't know." And then I have to prod and I have to poke around and ask them where they're at with their relationships, their mind, their body, their business, rate them out of 10. Which one's the lowest score? 6 for the business. Why do you say 6? Well, I'm just a bit disenchanted with it at the moment, or I feel misaligned in the business at the moment. I feel like I haven't got very good boundaries at the minute. Okay, would you like to open up about it? Yeah. They talk, I'll listen, and then we unpack it and then get into some strategies around how they can put in some boundaries. Therapy is just so far away from that. So he's a complete void of judgment. There's no judgment at all. He doesn't try sway me in any way, whereas coaches in the past have not told me to, say, break up with my partner, but they've said, this needs addressing. He'd never tell me to do that in a million years because he's just not allowed to. So there's certain things that they're physically not able to say that coaches can, because the insurance and the level of qualification is so different as well.
That's really great to kind of hear how you found the differences and the benefits for you. I want to go a little bit of a different direction. I'm sure you're open to talking about it. It's your sobriety journey. You've been off alcohol for a very long time now. I would love to know what kind of sparked that change in your life. How long it's been?
5.5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. And what sparked it was my life was a shit show, mate. So I was drinking heavily. I was in hospitality, for context. I was managing late night cocktail bars, and it's rife. Alcohol is so easily accessible. It was almost encouraged to drink with your guest in certain venues. It was lively. It was dancing on the bar, fire breathing, creating amazing drinks. Everyone's having a great time. So, yeah, but it got to a point, mate, where on a Saturday night, I could drink upwards of 1.5 bottles of spirit and 10 beers and still be functional. I don't say that to impress anyone, and I hope nobody is impressed by that. It's horrifying. And I was in the top 3 percentile of alcohol consumption in the UK. And my doctor said to me when I was, I think, 31, I'm 37 now, he said, look, Mr. Smith, can I be honest with you? And I said, yeah. He said, if you carry on drinking like this, you'll be dead by 40, 41. It's not sustainable. And even then, I knew when he said that, my heart sank and I was like, oh my God. But even then, mate, I still wasn't ready to change. I had all the bravado, the lads. I've never been in the top 3% for anything, trying to brush it off. But deep down, mate, I went home that night and nearly cried myself to sleep. I was a mess. I was like, what on earth have I become? But the pain was so deep that I didn't know what else to turn to. So I had more drink, and it leads to junk food, and it leads to doing other drugs, and it leads to destructive relationships and one-night stands, and hoping it'll validate you, hoping that somewhere on the lines I'll stumble across being happy or fulfilled, and it just didn't come. And then when lockdown hit, I know COVID was very destructive for a lot of people, but for me, it changed my life in a very positive way. And I've had my go through, believe me. So, I don't look at this experience as I had it great and everyone else struggled. It's a thing of superiority. My life was a fucking mess, frankly. So I was 130 kilograms, which is around 20 plus stone. I'm 6'4", but I was about 4 stone overweight, drinking most days. Lockdown hit. I thought, right, here's a time to reset, because I've previously been a personal trainer, so I knew how to look after myself. But I hadn't been doing it for years. So I thought, go back to absolute basics. I have to drink 2 to 3 litres of water a day, get 10K steps in, go exercise in the gym, because the where I was staying at the time had its like a home gym, and let's just take a break from booze. So I did all that, and I was about 3 or 4 months without alcohol during lockdown. Lost about 30 kilograms, something like that.
Wow.
Which is a lot of weight. So, yeah, it's 60 plus pounds of fat that I'd lost. And I look like a different person, mate. The quality of my skin was the biggest thing physically, other than the beer belly going. People couldn't believe it. I looked like 10 years younger. I looked younger at 30, what age did I stop? 32 than I did when I was like 28. And, I'd say now, even at 37, I look younger than I did when I was 30. When you see the pictures, bloated, blotchy skin, terrible beard. My beard was awful, like Ricky Gervais kind of vibe. Couldn't pull it off at all. And then grossly overweight and miserable. And my partner's birthday, I had a pint, and I knew I didn't even want it before I ordered it, but you have to drink on birthdays was the narrative that I had for years, and Christmas and all the celebrations that go with it. So I had a I had a beer and I said to her halfway through, I don't want this. She's like, well, don't drink it. And that was the day after her birthday I stopped, which was August the 1st, 2020. Yeah, and my life has just improved in every single metric since stopping. So it doesn't mean that life's perfect and without its challenges. Of course, there's loads of challenges, but it's made navigating those challenges 10 times easier.
Wow, that's super long time. And yeah, it sounds like it's created a massive impact on your life health-wise from that. And the beard thing as well, I just come off No Shave November, so I could on the first shave the beard off. But, that's awesome. Yeah, like, how did you keep like going? Because I know you kind of like stopped and you just like you kept going. I know a lot of people can sort of like relapse.
Honestly, I think part of it was a little bit of being stubborn. So I remember I said in the August, I've got no reason to drink because I used to drink to go out and get drunk and to try sleep with girls. That was about my only motivation, if I'm being completely transparent. I was quite confident anyway in terms of being a conversationalist. So maybe it'd loosen me up a little bit. But I had a partner. I was in lockdown. I didn't have anyone to perform to. So that character was slowly dying. He's fully dead now. Rest in peace to him. He was a good lad, but he needed to go. And it got to Christmas and I said, I'm going to have a couple of Baileys at Christmas, maybe a Guinness or two, and that'll be it. And it got to Christmas Day and I just thought, I don't want it. I'm all right having a Diet Coke. It'll be fine. And then I thought, well, if I can get through Christmas without drinking, I'll drink up my birthday in April. Got to April, not bothered. And there's so many good alcohol-free alternatives now that it kind of looks the same and kind of tastes the same anyway, so you don't really feel like you're missing out. And when I did my first birthday without it, I thought, well, I've got to get to a year now. When I got to a year, then it was, I've got to get through my next Christmas. And then after a while, mate, it just became part of who I am. So the only reason why I know how long it's been is purely because it was the day after my partner's birthday. I won't be counting otherwise because I just look at it as I don't count how long it's been since I last had a cigarette or last did cocaine, because it's just one of those things. So now I just think it's part of my day. It's part of who I am that I don't drink alcohol.
Part of the identity.
That's the key, mate. Yeah. So I think you'll like this, especially in self-development. A question that I ask myself before doing most things now is this in alignment with the man I'm becoming? And if the answer's no, I don't do it.
Oh, it's a great question.
And the beautiful thing about this question is you can ask yourself after you've done something if that was in alignment. Meaning, let's say I snap at my partner and it's happened, I'm human. Is that in alignment with the man I'm becoming that I snap at my partner? No. What is in alignment? Apologizing like a man without caveat. Because I used to apologize by saying, I'm really sorry for snapping at you last night. I was really tired, which is a shit apology. Now it's, I'm really sorry for snapping at you last night. And that is it. You don't have to say, I'll never do it again, because spoiler alert, you probably will. So I just instead go, I'm really sorry about that. Just bang out of order. Done. So I got invited to my best friend's stag do about a year ago. And I asked myself the question. First and foremost, I said, let me come back to you, mate, which threw him off anyway, because he was used to the response of course, because I'd be a pathological people pleaser. And I'd just say yes, even when I meant no. So for any people pleasers that are listening to this, just this very, very, very simple framework is let me come back to you. Not groundbreaking, but if you actually implement it, it gives you space to think, as opposed to that instantaneous, hardwired, yeah, I can go, when is it? And then you go, fuck, now I've dug myself a hole. And I thought about it and I thought, 20 guys going to play golf, I don't like golf, to get absolutely leathered for 4 days, and I'm the only one that's sober. I don't want any part of that. Is this in alignment with the man I'm becoming? No. Hey, mate, thank you so much for the invitation. On this occasion, I'm not going to go, but I'd love to be able to honor our friendship in a different way. How about we go out for a nice dinner and I'll pay? Great outcome.
Great.
He's happy, I'm happy.
Great alternative.
Yeah, because no one wants the sober person in the corner. No one's going to miss the sober person in the corner on a stag do.
Yeah.
So I didn't need to be there. And I was, proud of myself for doing that, because I thought before that would have been, of course, let's go, let's do that. And I would have hated every minute of it and then resented the situation, which doesn't help anybody. So when you ask that question, It removes all the guilt and all the shame. And instead you go, no, well, that's not in alignment, so I'm just not going to do it.
I want to ask, a lot of people say this. I've heard people say this, like, I would give up, but, I have alcohol to relax, or I have alcohol to have fun. What would kind of be your approach on those areas?
If I'm being completely honest, it's bullshit. All the attachment, but I have what's known as fierce empathy around this. It's one of our mutual contacts, David Waldy, that uses this phrasing of fierce empathy. I'm really, really empathetic and I understand exactly what they're saying. I don't want to be a pedantic arsehole, but it doesn't help with anything. Alcohol doesn't make anything better. It's a complete fallacy. So I'm not going to walk around the bars, like that New Zealand vegan does and start shouting veganism and whatever. I don't care if people drink. It's absolutely none of my business what people do to their bodies or what they put into their bodies. So this certainly is not coming from a preacher standpoint. It's coming from a position of knowledge, care, empathy, and compassion. It's not helping you. It's not a crutch. When you think of what a crutch is, what does a crutch do? It supports you. It keeps you upright. It makes you stable. It gives you strength. Does alcohol do any of those things? And people go, well, no. So therefore, it's not a crutch. Well, it helps me to unwind, Adam. What do you mean? Well, it makes me feel good. No, it's like false dopamine. So it will make you feel good, false dopamine for 20 minutes, but then guess what? It wears off, so you need another hit. And then by the 6th hit of dopamine, your brain has now turned to mush because now you're 6 beers deep. And it is going to impact your sleep. It does impact your vital organs. It does impact how present you are. It does impact your productivity for probably 2 or 3 days minimum. It stays in your system for a very, very long time. Now, I work with people at the elite level. So if they are running a large organization, let's say they're taking a salary, just for argument's sake, of, 200K a year, right? And they're not at their best and they only have 2 beers a week, let's say. I often say to them, can you honestly afford to take 52 days off a year? And they say, well, of course not. Well, that's what you're doing when you're drinking alcohol, because you're not performing at your best for 52 days a year, nearly 2 months. What's your salary for 2 months? Oh, but that's different. It isn't. Yes, you can still get stuff done, but imagine where you could be if you stopped. So our business coach, who is a multi-millionaire, asked us the other day, share your unpopular opinions online. He said, share one with me now. And I said, you can't drink alcohol and perform at your best. And he became really agitated by that because he drinks occasionally. He said, well, I perform at a high level. I said, I know, but imagine where you could be if you didn't. And that's the point. So if you did remove it, where could you go? It's not to say I perform better than you because I don't drink. Your performance on 3 to 4 beers a night might be better than my performance without. But imagine where you could be without it. That's my point. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone or that I'm a better performer than anyone. That's not the case. It's all about the individual. So, but again, it usually comes back to a story that you're attaching to the alcohol. And it's likely that you've done it for decades without ever taking a break. So when I do work with clients, I often say to them, look, let's look at data. Let's get you a Whoop band. Let's measure it. Let's take a 30-day break. And if you don't feel any better, you're not getting more stuff done, you're not more present at home, you don't have more energy, you don't lose weight, you don't save money, your skin doesn't clear up, go back to drinking. And I would say, not everyone, because that would be a lie. I would honestly say it's about an 82% rate of people completely stopping, of people that I've worked with. And the other 18 to 20% have severely reduced. No one's ever worked with me and drank more alcohol, put it that way. So, if I can get people to reduce to once a month, because people say that, what's wrong with 1 beer a month? Well, nothing. If I did 1 line of cocaine once every 6 months, nothing's going to happen to me, really, unless you've got a heart defect, right? If you had 2 cigarettes a year, I'm certain that nothing would happen to you. But it's not the point. That's, again, to come back to the word, that's where the identity comes in. Because, for example, do you smoke?
No.
If I said, would you like a cigarette? What would you say?
I would say no, because I'm not a smoker. I don't.
Correct.
Over there.
You disassociate from the label. I'm not a smoker. You didn't say what brand is it. You didn't say what time is it. You didn't say, what am I doing tomorrow? You don't even consider it as an option. And that's where people can get to when they're ready. And that's where I got to. I'm not a drinker. I don't say that. If people say, would you like a beer? Oh, no, thank you. If they go, oh, go on, it's just, oh, no, I don't drink alcohol. If I have to go to that level, I'll just say I don't drink alcohol. Why not? Some people press you on it. Oh, I just don't want to. I don't say, this isn't aligned with the man I'm becoming. It's just, no, thank you. It's okay. I'm not a drinker. And a lot of people are intrigued. How come? Wasn't serving me. All right. Were you an alcoholic? No, just wasn't serving me, so I've stopped. And my life's got better since. Oh, I wish I could stop. That's a classic. People say that to me all the time. I wish I could stop, implying that they can't. What they're really saying is I don't want to, or I don't know how to. And both of those answers are both okay as well, because it takes time, it takes strategy and acceptance to move on and not to be handcuffed by something that has held you back for, again, decades. Fascinating.
Yeah, I don't want to, like, yeah, when you realize you're not doing it because you don't want to, or you don't know how, like, it's much more empowering than saying I can't as well. You reframe that one.
If someone says to me, I can't stop drinking, I'll just say, how do you know? And they'll say, oh, because to have a belief of anything, mate, you need evidence. So I know you talk about self-esteem and confidence a lot, but self-esteem is esteem of oneself. If you've got low self-esteem, it's because you don't have any confidence in yourself. You don't have any confidence in yourself because you don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself because you've got banks and banks of data to say that you're not going to follow through with what you said you were going to do. So it's easier to lie to everybody else because you lie to yourself every day. So it's a great song lyric. It's hard to tell the truth when you lie to yourself. And it's true, it's absolutely nail on the head. Because, like, do you go to the same barber when you get your hair cut?
I mix it up, actually. Between
Okay, that's all right. But I don't. I go to the same barber. Why? Well, because I know he's going to do a good job. Why? Well, because I've got trust in what he's going to do. But why? Well, because I've been before. So you've got evidence to back up your belief, correct? If I went and he just went like that down the middle, maybe like an idiot, I probably won't go back because I've got evidence he's not very good because I've lost complete trust and confidence in him. So I have to understand, and again, not be judgmental with my questions. When did you learn that belief that you can't do this? I don't know. Let's do a bit of digging. When did you start drinking? When I was 14 or 15. That's typical of most men that I coach over 40 in the UK, maybe even younger in some cases. And what we were trying to do as 14 and 15-year-olds was what? Fit in. Do what everybody else was doing. Everyone else goes to the park to drink, or they go to house parties and drink. I don't want to be the odd one out, so I'll drink too. And then eventually it just becomes part of who you are. And then in your 20s, it becomes almost like a survival mechanism because life gets way more stressful in your late 20s. You start to look at buying houses, you get promotions at work, you maybe want to settle down and get married and have some kids, then you get into your early 30s, and then the pain starts to outrun the pleasure. And the hangovers get much harder. And you get to 40s and they get way harder, but you just accept it because you've always done it and you didn't know there was a problem with it. It's such an interesting, and I've seen this play out hundreds of times, by the way, almost to the letter, that exact story. So I have to help them unpack what their initial desire was when they first started drinking. And it's not that they can't give up. It's that they're reluctant to because they don't know who they are without the booze. How can I socialize? How can I dance at weddings without drinking? How can I give a speech? How can I approach women? And they've got, again, endless data to suggest that they can't do it any different. So I don't fight them against it because I'll never win. I have to just let them discover it by asking the right questions and knowing what buttons to press. But for anyone listening right now, ask yourself honestly, is this serving me? Am I the best version of myself when I drink alcohol? Do I honestly really, really, really want to drink? Or is it just something that I'm using as a coping mechanism for stress? Because people say that to me all the time, mate. I drink alcohol to de-stress. I'm like, no, alcohol's causing the stress. You don't realize it. Reverse engineer it.
Yeah, like so many lies we can tell ourselves. It's insane. I've certainly, have to catch myself saying some complete bullshit to myself, but that's what the power of a good coach is going to do as well. The best coaches, they really pick you out for it.
Yeah, just, again, is it true? People say, I'm a piece of shit. I'll go, a piece of shit. I won't go, no, you're not, because that doesn't help them. I'll go, piece of shit. And they'll go, yeah, like, what makes you say that? Well, I want to stop drinking. And I went out on Saturday and had 3 or 4 beers. And then I didn't take the kids to football. So the missus is absolutely fuming. Okay. Would you say that makes you a piece of shit, though? And they go, well, no. I go, okay, so if it's not true, what's a more helpful reframe here? And I'll often get them to try coach themselves. And if they say, I don't know, then I'll provide an answer. What's a more helpful reframe? I don't know. What about I drank the other night. No one died. I didn't kill anyone. It's not in alignment with who I want to become. So I know that I can just try again next time. And they're like, oh, yeah, way better. Because the only place, should I say, that guilt and shame can exist is when judgment is present. So if you remove the judgment of yourself and replace it with curiosity, I'm wondering what made me drink or eat junk food or insert bad behavior that you want to stop. I'm wondering what made me do that. I'm wondering where that came from. I'm wondering how I can change this moving forward. Because most people just go to why. Why did I do that? Or what is wrong with me? And they start persecuting themselves. So then after a while, they start to feel guilty. And guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. I am that behavior. I am an idiot, not my behavior was idiotic. You know, I was coaching a tennis player and he said, oh, I'm so bad at doing this shot. I said, you're not so bad. The technique for that shot is incorrect. Huge difference.
Guilt and shame, the difference. David was talking about this as well when he was on the podcast, David Waldy, the difference between guilt and shame as well.
Yeah, and it weighs heavy. So again, and the reason why we guilt other people or shame other people is usually a projection from ourselves because we so freely do it to ourselves. And the reason why we judge other people is because of how harshly we judge ourselves too. But the brain doesn't know the difference. So when you're judging someone else, you may as well be judging yourself and punishing you.
Yeah.
Why the fucking hell is she wearing that? Why did he say that to me? Why are they beeping the horn at me? Whatever. Just pause. Just become a bit more aware of your surroundings and inviting the compassion for them, because I'm guaranteeing you'll have way more compassion for yourself when you do this.
Absolutely. I love this, Adam. And yeah, congrats on such a long time of, giving up alcohol and helping others do that as well. Adam, I know you've got so much content out there and you're supporting people. Where is the best place for the listener to find you if they want to connect or get in touch, potentially work with you? And was there maybe a final point you'd like to leave us with today?
I would say the final point I'd like people to leave with before I get into the self-fulfilling promotion side of things is the best question you can ask yourself when you're going through a difficult moment is, what's a more helpful thought? Because we have 2,000 thoughts an hour and 80% of those are negative and very repeating. So whatever you worried about yesterday is likely that you'll be worried about it today as well, and probably tomorrow. But you are not your thoughts. So you can allow the thought to be present. Even if you think I'm a worthless piece of shit, that's a thought. Doesn't make it true. So you can ask yourself, is that thought true? No. What's a more helpful thought? I'm a good person and I'm working hard on myself. And from time to time, I'm going to make mistakes. That's okay. It doesn't mean that we let ourselves off the hook every single day, but what it does mean is that you can have a bit of empathy and compassion. So that's a great question to cut through all the noise, because it's not false positivity, rah-rah. It's just more helpful. Yeah. Kicking the shit out of yourself is not helpful. So bringing something a bit more helpful. But in terms of finding where I'm at, mate, there's a lot of Adam Smiths. It's a very popular name. So I would say Adam Smith. And then if you type in A-Game Consultancy, you'll probably find me on LinkedIn. Our website is agameconsultancy.com. We've got a podcast as well called A-Game Unfiltered, which is across most of the platforms. And then we're on YouTube as A-Game Consultancy and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm mostly prevalent we're on TikTok and Instagram and all sorts, but I won't bore people to death with those details. The LinkedIn's the main attraction for us and our podcast, I would say, mate. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, so be sure to get in touch with Adam's stuff, and it's going to be in the show notes below this episode. Adam, a massive thank you for coming on today and all the value you've shared with us today.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. It's been good to see you again, mate.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.